Synesthesia is a fascinating condition of the brain in which the presence of one sensory stimuli causes perception of additional phantom stimuli. The brain of a synesthete involuntarily responds as if multiple stimuli are present. These multiple reactions occur because two separate parts of the brain are linked by neurons that will unnecessarily pass messages. Based on simply the five senses, sight, smell, touch, taste, and hearing, more than 20 combinations are possible. Additionally, perceptions outside the five basic senses have been recorded, and more than two of the senses can be linked. Synesthesia is still mostly a mystery to scientists because of the unique nature of each case. The brain of each synesthete is different, and no two cases are exactly alike. Even people with the same type of synesthesia may not experience it the same way.
For example, Sally and Sam both have grapheme color synesthesia, but they experience their letters and numbers very differently. Watch as they experience the A, C, Q, 8, and 1.
I'm Sally. I see my A's as purple, my C's as orange, my Q's as green, my 8's as blue and purple, and my 1's as pink.
Hi, I'm Sam. I see my A's as black, my C's as purple, my Q's as fuchsia, my 8's as pink, and my 1's is light green.
Grapheme color is the most frequently documented because it is simple to assess whether people have it or not, by taking a simple online test developed at Baylor College of Medicine. This test has been used to identify, verify, and collect data on over 6,000 synesthetes to this day. David Eagleman, a neuroscientist at Baylor College of Medicine, helped develop this test, which tests for as many types of the condition as have been recorded, of which there are hundreds. Number form synesthesia is triggered when a person thinks about or sees or hears a number, and then a mental map of the location of the number in space is involuntarily visualized. Cross-activation between the different parts of the parietal lobe is most likely the cause of this particular form. Cross-activation between the numerical part and the spatial cognition portion. When discussing their particular form of synesthesia, the artist of this picture said,
It is really difficult to portray my number line in a two-dimensional space. The line snakes in and out, closer to me and farther away from me. Negative numbers plunge infinitely downward, and numbers above 200 rise infinitely left and upward.
Spatial sequence synesthesia is very similar to number form in that it also has cross-activation between different parts of the parietal lobe, the numerical part and the spatial cognition part. However, spatial sequence involves involuntarily visualizing sequences like days of the week or months in the year, as shown by this drawing by a synesthete, in the physical space around them. Sound to color synesthesia involves sound triggering visualization of colored shapes like a circle or square. For example, visualization of this colored square would be triggered by this sound. Ordinal linguistic personification synesthesia is one of the most interesting types because it involves associating certain personalities or actions with a number or a letter, as shown by this drawing by a synesthete. Lexical gustatory synesthesia involves the evocation of certain tastes when certain words or phonemes are heard. Phonemes are the smallest part of a word with one sound. However, the tastes are restricted to ones that they have already experienced. For example, as shown by this picture, the word stickers, when heard or said by the synesthete, might evoke the taste of gummy bear. Auditory visual synesthesia, not to be confused with sound to color, involves association between certain sounds and images, such as association between this forest and this sound. Auditory color synesthesia is again different from auditory visual. This synesthesia involves association between certain sounds such as notes and colors, shown by this diagram made by a synesthete. Grapheme color synesthesia, as previously discussed, is the association between letters or numbers and color. This association is always the same. Synesthetes' brains vary greatly, but there are certain striking similarities among those with the same type. People with grapheme color synesthesia have structural differences in their inferior temporal lobe, which deals with grapheme and color processing. They also have greater quantities of white matter, which is a reflective substance that is thought to speed up the passing on of neural messages. Though the differences vary from person to person, every synesthete reacts in a similar way. The section of the brain that is supposed to respond to the stimulus is activated. Then, the unrelated section also activates. In grapheme color synesthetes, this means the V4, or the region within the inferior temporal lobe of the brain that responds to color, will be activated even though the image presented was entirely in grayscale. The neural response was detected using scans such as an MRI, fMRI, and DTI. An fMRI is used for brain imaging. An fMRI is used to assess which regions of the brain were involved in the interaction, and a DTI is called diffusion tensor imaging, which measures the rate of diffusion of molecules in the brain, and is especially useful in visualizing the brain's white matter, which, as mentioned previously, is a component of the structural differences between synesthetic and non-synesthetic brains. However, there are also many hypotheses about how synesthesia is caused, which attempt to explain the information found by these scans. The most common hypothesis is referred to as the synapse pruning theory, which states that all human beings are born with extra links between unrelated sections of the brain. Then, as children mature, their cognitive speeds need to increase, which causes the pruning of any extraneous links. Synesthetes, however, are left with some of the original links, prompting the multiple reactions to a single stimulus. The links most likely remaining because the proteins responsible for pruning were either never made or were not made in a high enough concentration. Because families often contain multiple synesthetes, and more than 40% of synesthetes have a relative that shares the condition, it is believed that synesthesia has a strong genetic component. The female-to-male ratio among synesthetes was found to be as high as 6:1 in some studies. Therefore, it is also hypothesized that the condition is linked to the X chromosome. Other studies suggest that the trait is polygenic, meaning that many genes are at work, and therefore the condition would not be strictly X-linked if this is true. Another hypothesis, commonly called the bounce-back theory, states that synesthesia is caused by blockages in the brain. When the neurological signal reaches the intended part of the brain, it activates that part, but then it hits a blockage and is bounced back into an unrelated part of the brain, which is then also activated. Synesthesia is also linked to autism, which is a condition that also involves perception and sensory abnormalities. Synesthesia has been linked to distinct regions on chromosomes 2, 5, 6, and 12. These 4 regions coincide with immune-linked areas.
This is Synesthetes. She has grapheme color synesthesia. So tell us, when did you first realize that you had synesthesia?
I realized I had synesthesia when I read an article about it in the National Geographic, I think, or Scientific American.
So you didn't realize that no one else was seeing letters with colors?
No, I thought that was the thing everyone did. I thought everyone had their own set of different colors.
So how does it work? Do you actually read the colors as if they're printed in different colored ink?
No, we mentally see them at the same time, and the mental image that I see of the word is colored.
So does it help you to remember things?
Usually.
And are the letters always the same color? Like,
Yes.
are your A's always?
Yeah, they have like a set color and they don't change.
How about symbols? Like pluses or minus signs?
Symbols that I commonly read do, like a plus sign is usually red and a minus sign is blue, but like commas and apostrophes don't really have color, if that makes sense, or like periods.
So do letters have colors or do whole words have colors?
Both. So the individual letters in a word have individual colors, but then like the word overall has its own color, and it's usually whatever the color of the first letter is. Not always, but usually.
It has been theorized that most people are born with a mild form of synesthesia.
Synapse pruning theory explains why some people retain the excessive connections in their brain through adulthood.
When people realize the effects of synesthesia, many are prone to identify with the condition.
However, many synesthetes do not realize they experience the world differently until educated about the condition.